So, before I go today, I would like to just share some things that are more general for all of the problems you wrote me about. Okay, one is, did you notice that all our questions were from women? I am not saying that men didn't ask questions about how to say no, but in truth, I think there were only two who asked in the sea of so many women asking the questions. And my hypothesis is that that is because men have more sexual fetishes than women. I mean, my hypothesis is that is why women have more problems saying no than men. But the fact that men have more sexual fetishes is a fact, right? It's based on studies, etc. Now, a fetish means a sexual attraction to objects, like leather or a riding crop or shoes, that seems to be very common, to body parts, or to situations not conventionally viewed as being sexual in nature. For example, risky behavior. I mean, risky behavior may be common for firemen or for people working on construction, but it's not really the place to have sex. I mean, if you sort of value yourself and would be worried that if you were so involved and so turned on, which I hope many of us are when we have sex, you don't want to forget yourself when you're on a ledge or, near a fire. Anyway, so please remember that men usually ask for things and the women usually have to be the ones to say no. And that is perfectly okay. Number two, of course, the reason it's difficult to say no in sexual situations is that rejection seems to be so much stronger when the request has been about sex. It's like your ego is involved so much more, okay? But remember, if you say no, and if you say no gently, remember that in a way, he is also rejecting you. You are not the only one rejecting him. He has a request and you say no. I'm so sorry. Yes, he's rejecting you, but you say, whether stated or non-verbally, I hope it's okay with you, even if I said no. And if he pouts, he's saying this is not okay. This is not okay with me. And if that's not rejection, I don't know what is. The third, and maybe this is the basis of all the other reminders, is you are who is the most important person in this situation. Sometimes people like to share secrets and disclose only about serious stuff. But remember that it is also okay to disclose what you enjoy. However, just because you want to think about this or enjoy it does not mean that you actually want to do it. I mean, that is why fantasies are so great, because a fantasy is wonderful because you actually don't have to see it through. Okay? Also remember, if you decide to see it through, that preparation is very important. Preparation not only physically, but also emotionally. When we talk about the physical realm, let us talk about anal sex, as that seems to be something very common in terms of saying no, or hopefully yes, with some people. One of the physical preparations might be to try and use your finger first, to insert your finger first in your anus rather than a penis or a dildo. I mean, I was going to say personal, well, pwede rin. In my personal, clinical experience, a finger is usually a lot smaller than a dildo or a penis, okay? So preparation is important, but not only physically, but also emotionally. And sometimes it takes time to accept the fact or to, if not relish, to be open to the fact that you are going to do something that you were taught or you grew up to believe that this is, not something acceptable. And remember also, please, that something you don't want to do with guy A may be something that you want to do or you're willing to do with guy B, because you trust guy B more. Guy B is worth you're doing this risk together, etc. The other is what we said about alternatives are far better than compromises. Consent is important at every stage. And that is why alternatives are good, because people are more likely to give their consent if it is an alternative rather than a compromise. And finally, the last point, and I'd like to share a rather sad experience that happens to some women, but will help you see the point, and that is that practice makes perfect. You know, when one is trained to help girls and boys who have been sexually abused, one of the things we do is to reward the person whenever the person says no. Because one of the difficulties, of course, or one of the correlates of being abused, it is not the only correlate, and it is certainly not the fault of the person who was abused, but the family may have been trained so that younger people always say yes, no, which is not good training to give to any of your kids, because then their default setting is saying yes as long as some older person whom they're supposed to, in quotes, respect, asks them to do something or tells them to do something. So sometimes in the training to help women and men get over sad situations like this, we teach them to reward themselves whenever they say no. And it can be very simple, like, let's go eat here. And you say, no, it's too far for me. Can we eat someplace else? So you reward yourself with something. Makes very good sense. And that, of course, is something you can use, practice making perfect, when people ask you to do things sexually that you don't want to do. Okay? So for future episodes, I'll be answering questions on oral sex. Send me your questions on Facebook, tweet using the hashtag AskMargie, or send an email to askmargie@rappler.com. As usual, we encourage video questions. Why don't you make that something that's risky to do? Be bold, ask a sexual question on video so we can admire your face, and not only admire your face, but think you are so beautiful for sending us the first video question for this show. Okay? So, see you next week. Bye.